We are joined now by Kwame Jackson, Tracy Pennywell, and George Lynch, and they're trying to get the HBCU vote out. And Kwame, let me begin with you. I am old enough to remember when Beethoven and Bach began Rock the Vote. So why do we think it's going to work this time?
Well, thank you for having us on. We are excited to be here on behalf of HBCU Heroes. And I think for us, it's about activating the Gen Z millennial vote at the college level. It's about getting people out and really realizing that, you know, this last election came down to 75,000 votes in about 7 swing states. And so every vote counts, and we have to get people to understand how important it is for them to be the difference makers. In the last election, I know Tracy likes to talk about how the HBCU segment became the largest drop off in voting, and we want to improve that in this election.
Tracy, I think I can preach from the choir when I say that every election we talk about the millennial vote and how important it is. And then when the votes are actually being tabulated, they come up short. Being a proud baby boomer, we represent. So what's going to make this election cycle different than other election cycles?
It's everything that's happening in the culture right now. You've got NBA players out here rocking the vote. You've got NFL players. You've got athletes, entertainers, globally, if you will. Everyone seems to be in this perfect just social media storm and social impact storm where we've got a lot at risk here. We've got social impact, we got Black Lives Matter, police brutality. So I think because we're all coming together and there's a big force of unity right now, that's really going to matter. People who weren't, ready before, I just feel are ready now because they and all their friends, their mama, their grandma, everybody is in on this.
George, Tracy says we're ready. Are we?
Yes, I definitely believe that the groups are ready. Like Tracy said, with NBA players, LeBron James, and guys from different NBA teams stepping up. The NFL teams are being very active, coming together as a unity. During the national anthems. When I played, back in the '90s, very few athletes stepped up. They tried to get Michael Jordan to be more boisterous, Charles Barkley, the guys who were leading the NBA. And it seemed like we were kind of sleeping on using your power to vote. I think this year with, like Tracy said, the environment, the killing of black men, everyone is awake this time and hopefully everyone will show up to vote.
Kwame, I know I speak from experience on this as well. You're down in North Carolina, and I worked in North Carolina. And one of the things that I always heard after elections, whether it was in North Carolina or Kansas City or in Washington, D.C., was people saying, I would vote, but what difference would it make? What difference would it make? Give the pitch.
Del, it makes all the difference in the world. So particularly in North Carolina. My hometown is Charlotte, North Carolina. I went to the University of North Carolina. I've campaigned for Harvey Gantt versus Jesse Helms back in the day, and all the things in terms of North Carolina and the surgical precision in terms of how they've targeted voter disenfranchisement here in the state. And what differences it makes is North Carolina in particular, because it's so tight. I always say it's going to come down to 2 high school football games worth of voters. So we're talking 5,000 people maybe will make the difference in whether North Carolina goes one way or another. And so we really have to get out, be part of the process, engage, get ready to register, and then show up at the polls both in early election and on election day itself.
So Tracy, what you going to do? How are you going to make it happen?
Well, for us, we're doing an Adopt an HBCU campaign where we're making sure that all the celebrities that are on our rosters, and then that includes, that's a lot. That's Rob Covington from the Houston Rockets. That's Kyle O'Quinn, who is with the 76ers. It's D.L. Hughley, Bill Bellamy, Takeo Spikes, Renee Montgomery with the WNBA. And the WNBA is really holding it down too. All of them together are adopting a school. We're making sure that we get behind the HBCUers because there's power in that HBCU demographic. They were the largest demographic that dropped off in the 2016 election. However, we know now that mobilizing the HBCU vote can really make a difference. So we're doing a social media campaign. We're doing all kinds of content and video and interviews and making sure that HBCUs know that all of us are together with them, behind them. And we're just going to make sure that they have all the information and a plan to execute the vote.
We're going to come back in a minute, but I'm going to do what my dear friend Gail King always says. I'm going to pick up all those names that were dropped on the floor there by Tracy. But when we come back, I want to talk about the pandemic and the HBCU dilemma. Stay with us.